All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to throw a poll in there. I've never done a poll before. So you guys should have a poll in front of you just asking you how long you're in the business. Less than 3 years, 3 to 10 or 10 or more. Actually, that says 310 or more. So ignore that, but just 10 or more. You guys could answer that for me. That's just a curiosity thing. All right, cool. Interesting. Thanks, guys. All right. Hey, Sage. Got a lot of my friends in this today. All right, beautiful. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let me pull up my my presentation and let me share my screen. Oh, I think it's this one. Let's hope so. Yep. All right, everybody can see that slide? I'm going to open up the chat as well so I can keep talking with you guys. All right, you can. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the activity in the chat room. Okay, so look, we're in a market right now that is just drastically different than in some ways anything I've ever seen before. I know a lot of the people watching right now, I've known Patrick, you and I have known each other a very, very long time, but I've been in the business for well over 20 years at this point. And, yes, I survived 2008. And yes, that was tougher, without question. But in a lot of ways, in its own way, this is super tough. And I think it's maybe tougher for real estate agents than it is for lenders right now. And we all know that the key to everything is to getting listings. But, the first thing that I want to talk to everybody about is this. We desperately need to differentiate ourselves, right? Like if I was to take everybody in this room and pull you all off to the side and say, hey, why should I use you versus the other, I don't know, between Lee, Collier, and Charlotte County, I think it's like 20,000 agents. So why should I use you over the other 20,000 agents? The reality is this, your answers would all be similar, and no disrespect, they would all probably be pretty weak. And I'm not picking on you guys. I believe the lender's answers to that question is definitely terrible and much weaker. But, it's a lot of, I provide good service and I have a lot of knowledge and maybe I've been in the business a long time, or maybe it's, if something, I hear this one a lot, if something goes wrong, I'll be there to fix it for you. And those are all good, but we got to look at what's going on in this market and the industry differently. And let's even step out from the market and just talk about the industry. I don't know. By the way, throw in the chat if you are aware of the big MLS lawsuit that's going on and how it could threaten the existence of co-brokered fees, where you guys are sharing like automatically spitting fees. Patrick is, Sage is. Okay, so let's imagine a time. Now, my partner Edgardo and I have an ongoing dispute on this one, which is who is more threatened if this happens, listing agents or buying agents? And my opinion was listing agents. Or I'm sorry, my opinion was that buyer agents are more at risk. And his opinion was that listing agents were more at risk. And I had what I thought were intelligent, obviously, what I thought were intelligent reasons for my opinion. But in hearing his opinions, I also thought that that they sounded very intelligent. And while I don't know whether it's listing agents or buyer's agents, what I do know is this: it's going to forever change the way real estate is bought and sold. I don't think this is necessarily bad. I just think this is an evolution, and evolution happens. And however, when evolution happens, there's always a victim of it. Okay. The mortgage industry has shifted. We are very techie. We are very social media. We are all of that. So what happened is the people that I used to work with for 20 years that had always done things the way they always did it are, the business is gone. I had to leave because there was just a directional shift that I saw coming and they didn't agree with me. And they all went out of business. And that's what happens, right? The old guard kind of hands it off to the new guard. And The one reason why I survived 2008, not only survived, but thrived. I grew my business from 2010 to 2011 from 5 million a year to production to 25 million a year in production. I did that because, and by the way, I did that during a time where loan amounts were 30, 50, $70,000, like ridiculously low. And I did that for one reason only, which is I saw the tidal wave coming and I figured out how to capitalize from it. And I think this market we're in, and definitely this MLS lawsuit, is another one of these situations. And, as is, 8, 9% rates. So, like on the lending side of things. But, what I want to encourage you guys to do is this. I want you to sit back and think to yourselves, if this was to happen, what would my life look like? And on the listing side of things, it would almost be easier, right? Maybe you're selling, you have a commission agreement now with a 3% commission, whatever the magic number is. And you say, look, whatever the buyer's agent is going to put forth in the offer, we could handle and negotiate on a case-by-case basis. But then as a buyer's agent, now this is a totally different planet. And it's interesting. I had a conversation just an hour and a half ago with a client, and the guy's like, look, man, you have been amazing. Like the knowledge you have, the financial, like advising piece of it that you have with my certified mortgage planning designation, like the way you could help guide me to be to build up an investment portfolio. It's legitimately mind blowing. Like it is so cool what you could do. He said, but this other guy's cheaper. He's like, why? And I said, Gary, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, you can't be the best and the cheapest. I said, this is the 7th time you're getting a mortgage. You've told me repeatedly, every other time has been the same except with me. And you've learned more with me than you've learned the other 6 instances combined. And the things I've taught you already on building an investment portfolio has blown your mind. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to work with somebody who wants to sling debt and you'll never hear from them again? Or do you want to work with somebody who's going to help to make sure that your grandkids don't have to worry about college money? I said, I can make an argument for both. I'm not here to convince you, but that is the decision. And I said, and to get the latter is going to cost you an extra $5,700. Okay. The other guy's points were less than mine. And he said, man, Scott, I got to tell you, he said, if I went with the other guy, how much would you charge me for just the financial advice? Now, in hindsight, I should have told him $5,000 because that would have been funny. But I said, look, man, I don't sell those services a la carte. Like these are just things that I provide to my clients. And he said, you know what, Scott, screw it. I want to go with you. So this client opted to pay, $8,700 in points instead of $3,000 in points with the same interest rate because of the value proposition I put forth. And what I want to encourage you guys to do is to think about how to create that kind of value. Now, does this work with everybody? Of course not. But if we're in a situation where buyer's agent is going to have to negotiate their commissions in each and every deal, we're going to need to do that. And even today, if every single listing appointment you walk into, you're going to have to find a way to differentiate yourself, you better figure something out and you better have answers that are outside the box. And everything I'm going to share with you today is outside the box stuff. I'm going to show you a technology here a little bit later that will enable you to close your listing presentations at a higher rate. And then I'm also going to share with you, and I'll do this first, a couple of very unique things in this market. And the first thing is a buy down, which you've heard of. I know that, but I haven't met many agents who had been taught how to articulate this strategy best. So let me go ahead and share. And guys, I'm keeping a close eye on the chat. So first off, do you agree with me that the need for differentiation is arguably bigger now than it's ever been before? You guys could just throw that answer in the chat. Very cool. So we all seem to be in agreement with that. And then, okay. And then let's take a look at this. Okay. So what's on the screen here is, this is an actual case I built for an agent named Wendy in town. And what she had was this. On the left-hand side was her list price. The home was listed for $899. She told me she had like 6 weeks left on this listing, was desperately trying to get this thing on the contract. And she called me up and she said, Scott, I'm so frustrated. I got a listing. I got an offer. They offered 10% less. They offered 809. And my seller is not even willing to respond. And I'm dying to figure out an answer. And like, I just want to, like, don't you, like, I thought I remembered hearing you say, like, you have some fancy thing for this. And I was like, I do have a fancy thing for this. So what I put together is what's on your screen. And what I showed on the left-hand side was the list price as it was. Somebody was to buy the house. They were putting down 20%. Interest rates were 6.5% at that time. Gave them a payment of about $51.78. And in the middle column, I put their offer. 809, same 20%, same interest rate, payment of $47.23. It's going to save them about $455 a month. Now on the right-hand side, and I did this on purpose, I didn't think it would land here, but I actually raised the price from $899 to $922. And the way I structured it was I was going to have that $23,000 put in the counteroffer as the seller willing to pay that towards the buyer's closing costs. And then the lender, the buyer's lender, who wasn't me, I got on the phone and kind of talked them through it, could use that money, that 2.5%, to buy down the mortgage rate from 6.5% to 5%, which saved them an additional $130+ per month. In fact, they would have had to offer about $760,000 in order to have the same payment as they did with this $922 with the buy down. So this buy down can be used in a couple of very creative ways. Now, by the way, let's back this up. Conceptually, what the heck am I talking about here? We're paying points. Like, there is nothing new about this. Paying a point to buy down a rate is as old as this business is. It's been in here since the day I started. It was been in this business way before I started. And we all know about buying points, but I'm finding ways to use the things we've always done creatively. And that is the key. So how could we use this? Well, we can certainly use this in the way I just explained it, as a mechanism to combat lowball offers. We could also use this in a way, if you think about this, let's say the person only qualified for 760. Well, utilizing this strategy, I just inflated how much home they qualify for from 760 to 922. Now, when we go to lower prices, the spread is smaller, although the percentage should be in essence the same. But I just added $160,000 worth of borrowing ability. So let's say you have a buyer that either doesn't qualify for enough to get a house at all, or doesn't qualify enough to get the house they want. This is a solution for that. And how well do you differentiate yourselves if you're talking to a buyer about that? But I want to stay focused on listings. What if you talk to your seller and said, look, yeah, that lower rate is good. That's a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 5%. I know some people are pushing this 2-1 buy down, that's a temporary buy down. I think in most cases, what I'm saying is a way better strategy. I obviously offer both, and I've done both, but I think this is a way better strategy because it completely removes the fear. The fear of the temporary buy down is, what the heck is going to happen after 2 years? Well, you could refi. Well, what if I can't? Blah, 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 blah. All that is just gone. That's why I like using this. And I think that this strategy solves for the masses, whereas the temporary buy down solves for the niche, right? So what if you went to a listing presentation? Guys, I'm sure this never happens. You go, you should list it here, and the seller goes, I want to list it here, right? It happens all the time. And I know two things about this from speaking with countless agents. Number one, this is a normal reality. And number two, within reason, obviously, but you have no real choice but to agree to it. Because here's the deal. There is some hungry agent behind you that is willing to put that house on the market for any damn price they want just to get the listing agreement signed, with the mindset of, we will have a price reduction strategy. And here's the deal. Every listing agent they talk to will bring up some, look, if we don't have any bites, we'll be able to bring the price down. Like, the consensus is we're going to talk about a price reduction strategy, but what if you differentiated yourself by having this made? And this is something I make for my agents before they go in listing presentations. It frankly doesn't take me very long. But what if you went to your seller and you went for your normal thing and you ran into that difference in price and said, look, we could do it, but here's what I want to do to give us the best possible chance of selling at your home. You're selling your home at the highest possible price. And you talk them through this buy down, or if you wanted to loop me in, I could, sometimes nowadays I'm getting brought in via Zoom to listing presentations, which is fine. But what if you said that? You are now creating a conversation, maybe it's a married couple, you are now creating a conversation between those spouses. Like, yeah, but that thing that one lady said, like that was interesting. And everybody else said the same crap. And this is where we could start to differ. This is the type of way, like the types of ways that we could differentiate ourselves, because we just desperately need to. And this will change the landscape when you're talking about price reductions, getting listings, combating lowball offers, or inflating somebody's buying power, increasing somebody's buying power. All in this one strategy, which again is nothing new. This is literally just a matter of people paying points to buy down the rates. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't understand, and I want to take a moment and talk to you about the psyche of people nowadays. I'm talking to countless agents, hundreds of agents, and they're saying, Scott, I was saying this to the seller, and they're like, no, I'm not dropping my price. This is ridiculous. And the consensus among the agents I'm talking to is that the sellers are unreasonable and the buyers are unreasonable. And look, I respectfully push back on that, folks. I don't think they're being unreasonable. I think they're scared. Like, I think they're just scared. So what I have on your screen is just a little bit of insight as to what's going on in the personal financial lives of Americans today. And let me walk you through this. On the top chart for the personal savings rates, okay, this gray bar up that vertical bar is a recession, okay? And obviously that was COVID. So what happened during COVID is people's savings rates skyrocketed. Why? Everybody was locked in their freaking house, right? They couldn't spend money. And if you look at the chart below that, what happened, consequently at the same point, people's credit card debt dropped, and it dropped a lot. In fact, it dropped to the lowest point it's been in a long time. And why was that? Well, paychecks are coming in. They couldn't go out. They couldn't go to restaurants. They couldn't go to movies. They couldn't play golf. They couldn't do all of the things. Now, I know here in Florida, it was, less restrictive than other parts of the country. And this is certainly national data, but make no mistake about it that it happened, it happens everywhere. And, you're sitting around, you get a credit card statement in the mail, and you have a $5,000 balance, and you're sitting on $6,000 in your savings account, and you're not spending any money. Let's throw $1,000 on there this time instead of, $200 to the minimum or whatever. So then what started to happen after that is the savings rate continued to go down, okay, because they started getting stimulus money. And then all of a sudden you see that little spike. The little spike is the shortage where there was no stimulus money, right? And then, when more stimulus money came, then they spent that, then more stimulus money came and the savings rate went back up again. And then around, March or April of 21, the stimulus money stopped altogether. And the savings rate has just consistently plummeted. But what happened during that period of time is that Americans were living above their means. They had their income, they had fat savings accounts, which is very unusual for most Americans. And then they had this stimulus money. And some people got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Or maybe for the payment protection plan, they were receiving their full paycheck, but not having to go to work. There were just so many examples of this where they started living this lavish lifestyle. And what I believe happened during that time is that when the stimulus money ran out, they had this room on the credit cards, and they kept that lifestyle going, even though they were now spending money again, even though they were now back at work, even though they were now depleting their savings rates. And credit card balances surpassed $1 trillion a few weeks ago. I hear, I don't mind sharing the presentation with you. I have all your email addresses, so I'll send it out to you guys afterwards. I'm happy to. Santosh, thank you. But people are living above their means right now, and credit card debts are soaring. And I just saw something recently where delinquent credit card debts, which is more than 90 days delinquent, is starting to really spike up. And this is worthy of mention, to put it mildly. So I really think that there's going to be a credit card bubble that's going to pop. I don't think it's going to have this catastrophic impact on the economy, but it will impact the economy. And it's important to understand when we're talking to people that people are coming from a place of fear. And if you have those conversations with people, that's another differentiating factor. I start all of my conversations with how screwed up the economy is and inflation and everything else. And I have the conversation and I go, how is this affecting you? And ladies and gentlemen, the answers are shocking. People are like, yeah, I'm allowed to go out to dinner once a month now. Or, I had to cut Starbucks out. And granted, these are all first world problems and I get all that, but it's sacrifice. And then, like, I was talking to that guy I was talking to today that paid the extra money for me. Gary, he told me today, he said, Scott, do you realize I'm leaving a $1,600 payment and my new payment's going to be $4,500? Now, this guy makes plenty of money, well over 5 figures a month, and could comfortably afford it on paper. But emotionally, he's freaking out. So we have to be very mindful of that. So let's take a look. Oh, by the way, a couple other things. I forgot to click on this. The average car payment in America right now is $800. It's doubled in the last 3 years. And credit card debts are very often sitting at about 17% right now. So it's problematic. Okay, let's look at this situation. Okay, sorry about the things there. So a lot of people that you talk to on a listing presentation are going to feel that they are trapped in their low interest rate, okay? I got a 3% mortgage, I don't want to leave. Here's the thing that we have to do. We have to take a look at what is their blended rate for all of the debt they have, okay? And again, these are real numbers I ran for a client, okay? This client was sitting on, $70,000 worth of debt. Obviously, I use round numbers, but $70,000 worth of debt, all his interest rates were in the 20s. And when I ran the numbers for him, I'm like, bro, you're paying 6.3. Like, it sounds sexy that your mortgage is 3%, but you're carrying 70-something thousand dollars worth of debt. And you're paying 20-something% for that. So let's look at a strategy for this. Let's look at a debt consolidation for purchase strategy. So let's say somebody's sitting at 3% right now and a current mortgage rate is 6.75. Literally in the last 4 days, interest rates jumped up higher than that, but the concept stays the same. Let's say 6 years ago, they bought the house for 500 grand. They put down 20%. Well, I think I used a 5% compounding rate of return, but right now, 6 years later, that home is worth $695,000. The remaining loan balance would be about $343,000. They'd have 35 grand to sell. So here's what most people think. You do a net sheet, they think, okay, cool. I'm going to walk away with 317 grand. I'm going to put that down on the next house. Let's look at those numbers. Well, first off, that 317 isn't 317, okay, because there's closing costs. So it's actually 305. Now, let's say the new house they want to buy is $850,000. Well, they got 305 to put down, so they're borrowing 545. Here's the problem, folks. That monthly payment goes up by $2,572. So a borrower sits down, a seller sits down and runs through these numbers, and they think to themselves, hell, I can't afford that. So let's take a look, okay? What if instead of taking the $305,000 and putting it down on the house, okay, which gives him here a mortgage of 545 grand. What if we said, you know what? We're going to take the necessary funds and pay off all of your debt. So now now instead of borrowing 545 on the new purchase, you're borrowing 645 because the rest of the money is going towards your debt consolidation. But now the move in their payments is only $286. So now all of a sudden, we've used a debt consolidation strategy to completely remove the obstacle, which is I think I got to pay an extra $2,600 a month to move. Either screw that, I can't afford that, or that's outlandish, I'm not paying that. And you walk out of the listing thinking, there's nothing I could have done here. The rates are too high. I'm losing this listing because of the rates. You're not. You're losing the listing because we're not thinking creatively. And this is, these are the ways that I could partner with people to help them by preparing these types of things to give to them. So this is one strategy. There's another strategy where they keep their house, they rent it out, right? Maybe you have somebody that has a lot of equity and not a lot of debt. That strategy is different, but along the same lines. In that strategy, they're going to keep their house, rent it out, use the profit they're making in their rent, and use that to offset the new mortgage payments. And then I could run an analysis and say, now you got two properties going up in value. You have two properties that have mortgages being paid down on. And I could run a 3, 5, 10-year projection on that. So it's kind of a little bonus tip there. But the debt consolidation for a move-up buyer is a rock solid scenario. We shave $2,286 a month in credit card debt out of this person's life. So even though the mortgage payment jumped up, it was only $286. Now, I could go geekier on this and say, look, out of your mortgage payment of $5,940, whatever it is, $300 is going towards principal. So that's not really money lost. That's kind of like a forced savings account. Therefore, the monthly deficit is zero. Like I could geek out on that if I have somebody that would, maybe appreciate that. So that's option one I wanted to share with you. Any questions on that? If you guys could throw it in the chat. And by the way, if anybody wants, you could just kind of raise your hand and I could like unmute you. Okay, my communicative skills are rock on tonight. Perfect. All right, let's look at the next strategy, which is assumable loans. Here's the deal. All FHA and VA loans are assumable. Okay, and what a lot of people don't realize is that you do not need to be a veteran to assume a VA loan. Okay, non-veteran, anybody could assume a VA loan, but here is the thing with it. Okay, FHA loans are clean. You assume an FHA loan, the seller walks away like it never happened, the buyer walks away with the new debt, life is good. But on a VA loan, there is a potential negative that is very important to know. When a veteran uses their entitlement, it's called entitlement, to get a VA mortgage, the amount of entitlement they have available gets reduced dramatically. When somebody, normally, if they were to sell their house and the loan gets paid off, their entitlement would grow back to its original size. But if their entitlement shrinks because they took out a mortgage and somebody assumes that mortgage, they have still used up their entitlement. They are still almost certainly not able to get another VA loan. So that can be a potential negative for a seller, and it's really important. I'm super vigilant in serving our veteran community. So it's definitely something like a conversation that should take place. I'm involved in several of these deals right now, and the sellers are like, I have so much equity in this house right now that I kind of don't care because I don't need my VA loan, which if you're putting down 20 or 30%, that's sensible, particularly if you're not disabled, like if you have a VA disability because of the funding pay. But anyway, so let's say the seller is a current rate of 3%. Same thing. They bought it $500,000 or $500,000. They put down 20%. Home value today, all of that's the same. Okay. Now, let's say somebody wants to buy this house for $695. Here's what everybody thinks that's wrong. What they think is that if they're assuming a mortgage of $343, the difference of $352 is what they have to bring to the table in cash. And again, traditionally that's the case, but a lot of people don't realize this, but you could actually get, like I could get a home equity line of credit for purchase. So this is a home equity line of credit that's given just like any other mortgage at closing on the purchase. And you could generally go up to 90% CLTV. So what we could do in this case is the buyer could assume a 3% rate for $343,000, could simultaneously take out a home equity line of credit for $282,500, and their down payment is just 10%, which is $69,500. Now, what does this strategy do? Again, because all of these strategies generally have multiple benefits. Number one, this is a strategy as a listing agent. Again, you go into a listing appointment, you talk to them about it, about their assumable rate. That word has kind of gotten out. I would like to think I've played a big role in that because I've been beating that drum pretty loud for a year. But word's gotten out about that. But word has not gotten out about the HELOC. Everybody thinks you got to come up with the difference. So I get calls from agents and they're like, yeah, it stinks. He just doesn't have the money. I'm like, no. That's not a thing. Hold on. So it enables people to buy houses that they wouldn't get. Again, differentiates you on the listing appointment. And from a buyer standpoint, we have once again just expanded their qualifying power. Again, a relatively small percentage of homes this will apply to, but all you need is one. Okay. And when you're sitting down with a seller and you're going over this strategy, this is once again a differentiating factor. And if you were able to put some messaging about this, if I was to create something and you were able to put it in the confidential comments, you are now increasing the buyer pool. The mistake that agents are making in this market is that they think that, hey, just because the loan is assumable, it's going to make the house fly off the market. Now, does it make that house more attractive than others? Checkmate, absolutely yes. But if the general buying population thinks that in this example, they're going to come up with 350 grand, how many people are looking to come up with 350 grand? So have we increased the buyer pool? Yes, but we haven't maximized the buyer pool. By utilizing an assumable loan with a home equity line of credit for purchase, all of a sudden now, in my opinion, we are now taking this thing called an assumable loan and we are maximizing the potential buying authority or buying pool out there. Again, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Any questions or whatnot, let me know. Okay, the third option. Okay, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is nice. Again, two strategies here. Okay, I already mentioned how we could convert a primary to a rental. We could use the profit from the rent and use that as to kind of cover the gap on the new mortgage payment. That's cool. But there's another one. Let me ask you a question and put it in the chat. Have you had a client buy a new primary residence and convert their former primary to a rental property? Because if the answer is yes, this next strategy will get you a listing. So go ahead and throw that in the chat for me, please. If you've had that experience in the last couple of years. Okay, we have some have-nots. Okay, let me go through the strategy here real quick. Check it out. Okay, let's say somebody bought a house for 500 grand 10 years ago. And let's say when they converted it to a rental. Oh, Wendy, this is brilliant. If this is like specific to you, like check this out. This is gonna be so cool. Let's say when the house is being able to be converted, is being converted to a rental, it's worth 703 grand. Let's say 5 years later, that house was sold for 899. Well, let's look at the tax situation. You bought it for 500. You sold it for 899. You're paying capital gains tax on 399,000. Let's assume somebody's in a 32,000 tax bracket, a 32% tax bracket. Super annoying. Uncle Sam just grabbed out of your 399 grand. They grabbed $127,000 of it, just gone. Again, here's a better strategy. Let me ask you a question. Well, Wendy asked the question, unless you put it into another property, can you 1031 exchange it? Yes, but here's the deal. A 1031 exchange it defers the taxes you pay. It does not stop you from paying the taxes. What I'm about to share with you is how to stop you from paying the taxes permanently. A 1031 delays the payment of the taxes. So check it out. You convert the house to a rental, it's worth $703,000. But you don't sell the house 5 years later, you sell it 3 years later. Now, when you sell it 3 years later, it is an accurate statement to say that you have lived in that house for a primary residence for two of the last, you with me? You have lived in the house as a primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years. If you have lived in a house for 2 of the last 5 years, and you sell the home, how much do you have to pay in capital gains tax? The answer is 0. Why? Because of the home, because of the primary residence exclusion. If you are single, it's up to $250,000. If you're married, it's up to $500,000. So check out this strategy. So now you sold your house for $813,000, but you still want a rental. So what do? You buy another house for $813,000. When you do that, you are affecting what's called your tax basis. Basic on the option on the left, the tax basis is $500,000. What did you like? What is the taxable starting point? On the right, the tax basis is $813,000. So now you still sell the house 2 years later for $899,000. But now the tax situation is you bought the house for $813,000, you sold it for $899,000, so your taxable capital gain is $86,000. So instead of paying taxes on $399,000, you're paying taxes on $86,000. And if we assume the same tax bracket, you have just saved yourself almost exactly $100,000. Might drop again. If you, okay, and Wendy, I know you talk about doing this for your own house. Like, please remember to do this. If you have somebody in your database that did this, give them a call with this strategy, folks. This is a tax strategy. And when you're talking to your sellers on your listing appointments, please, please, please have this conversation with them. Again, here's where people get caught up with this. It has nothing to do with whether or not people are going to use the strategies. That is not the freaking point. The point is differentiation. You want to get the wheels flowing in a way where they go, man, that is something that's interesting. I don't know if any of you guys are like people that read business books. There's a business book. It's actually one of the books that Neo Home Loans is built on. And it's called, I'll put it in there, The Challenger Sale. It's a red book. I think the author's name, you'll find it. The Challenger Sale is this. And guys, this is going to flip everything you know about sales upside down in your head. A big company did a study and said, they were trying to determine what makes top salespeople. And a lot of times these studies are done, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to prove a thesis. And in this case, it wasn't the case. They wanted to do the study and literally just allow the chips to fall where they may. So, so what happened is this. They studied thousands and thousands of sales reps across hundreds of industries. And what they found was that there were 7 different categories of, Wendy, I'll get to it in just a second. 7 different categories of salespeople. And you had relationship sales, you had the like solopreneur, on. And then you had the challenger sale. And guys, this is what was mind-blowing. The relationship salesperson performed the worst. Now, that is so contrary to what everybody thinks, which is that the relationship, like, I want to build a relationship. Sales is a relationship game. And although there's truth to that, here's the problem. There's plenty of other really nice real estate agents. There's plenty of other really great lenders that they could talk with. So that is not itself. The challenger salesperson in the book is a person that got the person they're talking to think differently about the product or service. So if you could get people in front of you and totally change the way they view these things, that is being a challenger salesperson. And it was very, very clear that a challenger salesperson is what works in this market. So please don't get caught up on, well, I don't want to discuss that strategy because it's not going to apply. Just stop. Talk about the strategies for the sake of talking about the strategies. I can't tell you how many times I say things to people and they go, man, I don't really know what you just said, and I don't think I want to do that, but man, you're really smart with this stuff. Guys, that's the win. Now, if that person wanted to do that, let's go back in and explain it in a different way so it lands. But guys, that is the win. The other thing I want to share with you, and I got to kind of shut down my PowerPoint. I'm going to go back to it. Hello, PowerPoint. Give me just a second here, folks. One other thing I want to share with you is this. Okay, now you guys can see, let me put the chat back up, get back here. Okay. Okay, Wendy, to answer your question, and Wendy, you and I should connect kind of off camera, and I could like really dive into your situation, advise you to help you with that sale. But yeah, you could do it with any kinds of rentals. The IRS doesn't differentiate between one and the other, so you should be cool there. Okay, guys, what is on your screen is list reports. Okay, and this is something that's free that I can provide to agents. And again, nothing new. List reports has been around for a super long time. Lots of agents will do it. Wendy, private message me your phone number if you can, please, and I'll hit you up. So here's the deal. Here's what list reports is. By the way, put in the chat room if you've ever heard of list reports, please. Okay, cool. Looks like most people have. So I won't get into explaining it. If in case 1 or 2 people haven't seen it, it is just an automated suite of marketing tools that is presented every time you get a listing. You get single property websites and open house flyers and sign-in sheets and all kinds of cool marketing materials. Just listed flyers, coming soon flyers, and all this cool stuff. And it's really good. Okay, but again, how do we take this tool that's been around for ages? Okay, and if any of you guys want to, I just put my email address. If anybody wants to get signed up with this, let me know and I'll send you a link. But again, how do we use this tool differently in this market? What a lot of people don't know is that you don't need to have a listing to create the marketing toolkit. You could actually go in here and create a toolkit for any address you want. And what the thing will do, and by the way, I know when you get a listing, it's like instantaneous. When you're doing it on a home that's not listed, it generally takes 30 to 60 minutes because the AI has to like pull everything. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull pictures that exist on the internet. If there's no pictures on the internet, it'll pull sample photos, which isn't ideal, but it doesn't mess up the strategy. What if you walked into a listing presentation and instead everybody talks about, here's the things I'm going to do to market your house? What if instead you went there and said, hey, here's the marketing tools I've already created for your home. And the moment you sign my listing agreement tonight, as soon as I get my car, I'm going to hit a button and make all of this marketing go live. Again, differentiation, right? This is just another way of taking something that's been around forever and getting it to be more applicable and help you convert more leads at this, in this type of market, because people are all about speed. People are all about that. And I don't know if you know this, another thing a lot of people don't know about list reports is every time a buyer is registered anywhere in America, when you put a listing in, even if it's not live on the MLS yet, there's a way that you could put it in here where it will go as an off-market home to any buyer anywhere in the world that's on this list reports platform, whose needs it meets. And if that buyer is on the platform, and this is not common, but if they're on a platform without an agent, it'll come over with your contact info. If they're on there with an agent, which is the majority of the time, then it'll come over with that agent's info. But either way, you can then tell the seller, look, not only will this marketing go live, but your marketing will automatically, and there's generally about 200,000 buyers that are in this platform nationally at any one given time. And obviously that number fluctuates, and that's nationally. So, you know, for what that's worth. But I will hit a button, this will go live, and your listing will immediately start to get marketed as an off-market property to 200,000 buyers that are on this platform. So that way, while we're waiting for pictures to get taken and blah, 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 we're not losing any time. The marketing material is made, and this property is going to be listed instantaneously. Again, we are looking at a totally different animal when we're having these types of conversations. All right, so here's the deal. When do you think I can help you? If you have a cash buyer that's afraid of this market, I can help you. You have a seller you can't get to sign. Hit me up. People waiting for rates to come down. Somebody who doesn't qualify for enough. You receive a lowball offer on your listing. You want to make sure you nail those listing appointments. You need other creative ways to overcome other challenges. Do not just call me when somebody needs a lender. That is not like, that is the old school traditional, this is what everybody does. That is not at all what we need to do to be successful in this market. We need, as partners, and it's a joke that the truth is the realtors traditionally do all of the work and the lender asks for half the credit, which is messed up. So what I want you to do is when any of these situations pop up, I want you to think, I'm not just here to help because somebody says I'll get a loan. Some of these phone calls will lead to loans. I'm at peace with that. All of these phone calls will lead to relationships and opportunities for us to do business together, and that is a win for everybody. I'm also licensed all throughout the country. So the chance of the seller needing to buy another house somewhere in America is like well over 80%. So there's opportunities there. Wendy, for your property in Pennsylvania, I could put together all sorts of listing and like marketing collateral for that because I'm licensed up there as well. But folks, I don't want you to think of me just in that scenario. So don't worry about that. But just, I'm going to go ahead and email this presentation out. If you have any questions, let me know. But throw it in the chat room, and be honest with me, guys. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like 100% yes. Do you feel that you could walk into a listing? You'd have to get a little brushed up in practice, but do you feel you could crush a listing presentation that much more with these types of conversations than you were leading up till now? And you won't hurt my feelings if you put a 1. I just want honest feedback. This is my first time teaching this. All right, I got my first 10. Let's go. Awesome, Susan. All right, boom, mic drop. I have done my job. Awesome, guys. So look, I'm going to send this out. I'm going to send this out to everybody. Patrick, I'm going to get on the phone with you to see if I can get you 8 to a 10. I appreciate the honesty. And guys, I just want to encourage us. Let's all work together. The market's hard. It's not going to get easier, but here's the other piece of it. How many sales do you individually really need in this market? The answer is not many. So anyway, that is what I got for you. I am Scott DiGregorio. Thank you so much for taking the time. By the way, I'm going to be holding another one of these next month and a final one for the year in November. I'm going to take December off and then I'm going to start this. The one next month is going to be all about generating or helping people build up a real estate investment portfolio. So please stay dialed into me on social media. I know I send out emails to this stuff as well, but stay connected to me so you can do that. And please, please, please invite other agents. I'm trying to get the word out and help as much as I can to as many people. So guys, thank you so much. God bless. Have a good one out there, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.